Let's go to Eamon Javers at the White House. Just got off the phone with the aforementioned Larry Kudlow. Eamon.
Yeah, that's right, Tyler. Just hung up the phone with Larry Kudlow a few moments ago. He told me he was honored to accept the job. He told me he's spoken to the president about 4 times this week, including last night and again today. He told a very funny story, which I think you've just heard, about being called at dinner at Cipriani last night and then jumping in an Uber and talking to the president during the entire course of his Uber driver ride, and the Uber driver being shocked that the guy was on the phone with the president. But he also said something that I think is important and hits at that tension that you guys were just talking about Larry disagreeing with the president on tariffs. Larry said that he understands the president's position on tariffs, and the president understands his position on tariffs. And he said that ultimately, as National Economic Council director, he said, once the decision is made, it's made. I understand that. He said, I might not agree with every crossed T and dotted I, but then it no longer matters. Our job at the National Economic Council is to execute the policy, not to continually hold meetings and not to rehash this to death, but simply to execute. So Larry's telegraphing there that he feels that ultimately, once the president's decided, the decision is final, but he will argue his position until that decision has been made. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
And there was a tweet in which the president said, Larry understands that tariffs are acceptable for negotiating purposes, right?
Right.
And that was the thing.
He said that on camera. The president said that on camera, yeah.
Right. I wonder who was ceding to whom on that. Was it the president who was acknowledging that tariffs were good? And was that kind of a precondition for Larry to come in and say, look, I'm not coming in to an administration here that's going to go whole hog on tariffs, but I will join one that uses tariffs as negotiating positions? I think the president gave more.
I'll tell you what my sense is that these are two guys who like each other and who are trying to find a way to meet in the middle on that. And that seems to be where they came down, is that Larry agrees with the president that tariffs can be useful to bring other countries to the negotiating table, and the president concedes that Larry doesn't support broad-based tariffs, but targeted tariffs as a negotiating tactic. And I think they sort of agreed to disagree there. And what Larry Kudlow was just saying to me a few minutes ago is that he agrees that when the president makes the decision, it's final, and that's when the conversation has to stop. He also said that he's going to be here tomorrow in Washington for the formal announcement of this. There's a trade meeting here at the White House that he will attend tomorrow. It's not clear exactly when Gary Cohn's last day will officially be, but he said that Gary Cohn has been extraordinarily helpful to him in walking him through a lot of the basics of how the NEC works, what the day is like, how the White House day is structured these days. It changes from administration to administration, so Kudlow will need to get up to speed on all of that. So he also talked about his long-term relationship with the president, having known him and interviewed him in New York over the period of 20 years. These are two men who know each other well and who are familiar with each other's views. And Larry Kudlow said he's extraordinarily comfortable coming here to work with the president. He's simpatico with him on a number of issues. One of the issues that he raised with me, which I was surprised to hear as sort of a National Economic Council issue, is the issue of immigration. Larry said he's entirely supportive of the president's positions on immigration, on the wall, on ending chain migration, but also on the Dreamers and bringing the Dreamers in to the United States and getting a final deal on that. Larry Kudlow views that as an economic issue as well as a sort of a political and social issue. So there's a lot there that the National Economic Council will be tackling in the coming months.
So I worry about one thing in particular. Tyler earlier mentioned that Detroit speech. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a great speech for the American economy in the 1950s. The president talks about the trade deficit, just the goods trade deficit, at $800 billion. Doesn't talk about our surplus, $300 billion. We have a very dynamic economy, an economy that's changing, an economy where manufacturing jobs are being replaced by all kinds of jobs out there. I worry, and I hope that Larry incorporates some younger blood into the administration that includes some forward thinking about the dynamism in this economy, and they let it run, and they don't try to bring back a golden era in their minds of the 1950s in the economy.
Larry has decried the president and Wilbur Ross's obsession with the trade deficit multiple times here on CNBC.
That's very important.
Yeah, I think he'll message that a lot.
Got to get on board. The jobs of tomorrow have not been created yet. Government doesn't know where they're going to be created and shouldn't necessarily hold the line on old jobs for the sake of old jobs.
So, Eamon, are we going to get like a whole ceremony, the whole thing, and the, what are we going to see tomorrow?
It's not clear what exactly we're going to see. I think the president's going to be back in town. He's in Missouri. He's going to be in St. Louis this afternoon. He's giving a big economic speech at Boeing this afternoon, talking about tax cuts, and he's going to praise the success of his economic agenda so far. We might hear a little bit about Larry Kudlow now that the news is out in that venue. And then at some point there will be an official announcement here at the White House that's expected tomorrow. I'm not sure whether we'll see it on camera or whether that will be a private event, but we'll get to the bottom of it. One interesting point that Larry Kudlow just made with me is that, the biggest sort of nationalist here in the White House on the economic team is Peter Navarro, who's seen as a big proponent and advocate of the tariffs and sort of the protectionism, particularly against China. That was seen as a dynamic of, Gary Cohn versus Peter Navarro here in the White House. It would be expected by a lot of people that Larry Kudlow and Peter Navarro would be at odds with each other on that issue too. And Larry reminds me, though, that he had Peter Navarro on his show many, many times on the Kudlow Report on CNBC. So just pointing out that he knows all these people and has known all of them for years. Kudlow saying to me just a few minutes ago he's got a great relationship with
Can he
Navarro.
sleep on your couch until he finds a place?
He's welcome. He's welcome to. I expect I'll be picking his brains, as soon as he does.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.